The ocean is not empty space. It's a living archive, restless, bright on the surface, pitch dark below, and forever withholding. Its calm hides ruins that look carved by hands we do not remember, ships that leave no farewell, and holes in the seafloor that fall past light and certainty. What follows is a guided descent through true stories, each documented, each unfinished, that press on the edge between geology and myth. Keep a hand on the rail. The deeper we go, the stranger it gets. The Stone City. That shouldn't be Yonaguni. Our first stop is off Japan's last inhabited island before Taiwan, Yonaguni, where, in 1986, a dive guide scanning for new tourist sites drifted over a shadow that grew into steps, terraces, corners, and corridors seemingly squared by intention. This monument sits roughly 100 feet down and looks like the skeleton of a city. Staircases that widen as if for processions, platforms that feel ceremonial, corridors that beg for a torch. Marine geologist Masaki Kimura spent years mapping the structure and surfaced with a heretical possibility. This was not a trick of sandstone, but architecture, an Ice Age complex later drowned by rising seas. Perhaps 10,000 years old. Skeptics counter with a simpler chisel, time. Sandstone cleaves in straight lines. Tectonics and currents make terraces. Corners are not proof, they're weathering. Without potsherds, tools, inscriptions in situ, without context, the burden of proof is heavy. Robert Schoch's dives found beauty and symmetry, yes, but enough for man-made? Not yet. Still, divers who pass down those wide stairs, with parrotfish drifting like stained glass and the eerie quiet of depth pressing inward, feel what the argument cannot erase, an intuition of design. If Yonaguni is natural, it's nature in a geometric mood. If it's cultural, it shoves human timelines backward into the dark. Either way, it is a threshold, an entrance to old questions we thought we'd locked. The ship that came back empty, MV Joyita, now leaped from fixed stone to vanishing steel. In 1955, the MV Joyita left Samoa for the Tokelau Islands on a routine hop and missed its arrival by weeks. When she was finally found, listing half-flooded, 600 miles off course, her lifeboats were gone, her radio tuned to distress but useless with a broken antenna, and a doctor's bandages stained with blood on deck. There were no bodies, no passengers, no crew. Food remained. Valuables remained. The sea had taken people and left their stage set behind. Possible causes circle like gulls. A leak that looked worse than it was. Pirates who left no bruise. A rogue wave that frightened men off a still buoyant hull. A chain of small mistakes, radio down, pump clogged, night seas, that rolled chance into tragedy. Yet the hardest part to swallow remains this. Joyita floated. In the calculus of survival, you cling to a floater. The lifeboats were missing anyway. Did fear make a false decision final? The Pacific is vast enough to erase an answer and generous enough to leave a riddle drifting, intact. Where pressure remakes the world, Challenger deep and the voices of the trench slide down. Past sunlight, past twilight, into a zone where the weight of the ocean would crush a car like foil. The Challenger Deep within the Mariana Trench is the Earth's deepest known wound, nearly 7 miles down. In 1960, Pickard and Walsh rode a metal sphere into that pressure and saw a flat seafloor, a scant living thing, and a clock that ticked louder in their heads. In 2012, James Cameron followed, with cameras and sampling gear, revealing a slow snowfall of life. Amphipods, holothurians, microbial mats, organisms thriving by chemistry rather than sunlight. But the trench has more to say than sight allows. Hydrophones lowered into that abyss record choruses that feel unplaced. A rising metallic twang on the western Pacific soundscape. Whistles and thumps that seem deliberate. Rumbles that could be tectonics or giant life or both. Explanations jostle. Whales, volcanoes, landslides. Yet some signatures don't map cleanly to the known. In the deepest dark, sound arrives first. We hear before we know. And there is a lot we don't know. A city swallowed and shown again, Heracleon surface, and then only partly, because the next city, unlike Yonaguni's argument, is unambiguously human. For more than a millennium, Heracleon, Thonis to Egyptians, the Nile's saltwater gate, lived as rumor in old texts. In 2000, archaeologists found it, 30 feet under the Mediterranean near modern Alexandria, unpacked from silt by sonar, magnetometers, and patience. Out came colossal granite statues, docks, anchors, temple remains to Amun, shipping weights, coinage, and everyday goods. A port alive, then gone. Why gone? Soft delta soils subside. Sea levels rise. Quakes and tsunamis are regional habits. The city likely sank by degrees, then by disaster, the sea making a vault of mud and time. Heracleon's unburial was not just a win for archaeology. It was a mirror for coastal futures. Build low, worship high, and the boundary moves anyway. A modern implosion, Ara San Juan. The 20th century ocean carries mysteries with names and grieving families. In 2017, Argentina's submarine ARA San Juan reported seawater intrusion into a battery compartment. Dangerous but contained, they said, and then vanished. Hydroacoustic stations later logged a signal consistent with an implosion near her last position. For a year, the ocean kept the wreck, until a deep-sea search ship mapped the shattered hull more than 3,000 feet down. Theories stack: hydrogen from a shorted battery igniting, structural failure at depth, a cascade of faults in bad weather, an underwater collision, conspiracy rumors that wither in the light. The physics of pressure, like grief, is uncompromising. If the hull fails, it fails all at once. The San Juan's resting place closed one question: where? And left open the oldest human one: why? World's deepest blue hole, Dragon Hole Shift, to the South China Sea's surreal turquoise. Where the water briefly pretends to be simple. The Dragon Hole, a near-perfect circle in the paracels, drops almost 1,000 feet, deeper than Dean's Blue Hole, and turns from postcard to precipice as you cross the rim. Researchers found a sharp chemocline, oxygenated light blue water above, and anoxic black stillness below. In that lower chamber, there is no breath for most life. The walls bear the record of levels and ages. The floor hints at fractures, hidden arms, geological memory. What is a blue hole but a vertical archive? Sediments layer like tree rings. Microbes edit chemistry into history. Any object that falls may wait centuries for disturbance. The Dragon Hole is part trap, part time capsule, physically forbidding, scientifically irresistible. A bronze computer. Drowned. Antikythera Aegean light again. But with 1900 sponge divers and a shiver of statues. Off Antikythera, a Roman-era wreck yielded bronzes, marbles, amphorae, and a corroded lump that cleaned revealed gears with tooth counts matching the cycles of the sky. The Antikythera mechanism, likely 2nd century BCE, predicted eclipses and tracked planetary motions. An analog cosmos in a shoebox of bronze. It forces a recalibration. Ancient knowledge wasn't linear and primitive. It was peak and valley, firework bursts that fell back to Earth. The sea kept the device long enough for X-rays to meet it. Even broken, it moves the hand on the dial that reads, what we thought we knew. The classic ghost, Mary Celeste, we return to the template of haunted absence. The Mary Celeste, found in 1872, drifted under sail with provisions aboard, cargo mostly intact, log current, captain's family belongings undisturbed, and nobody home. 9 barrels of industrial alcohol were empty. The pump may have been clogged. The weather had been rough. That's enough tinder for a dozen theories. A vapor flash without scorching that panicked the crew off a sound ship. A rogue sea that swept someone overboard, prompting a fatal rescue attempt. Mutiny or piracy conspicuously absent from the evidence. The lesson isn't romance, it's variance. At sea, small errors don't stay small. The Atlantic can edit humans out of a scene and leave the props in place. The Mary Celeste is the archetype of that awful neatness. Pavlo Petri, the oldest known. Sunken city. Not all underwater cities are accidents. Some are legacies of time moving like tide. South of Laconia, Greece, divers mapped streets, courtyards, tombs, and rooms carved from stone at a site later named Pavlopetri. Its plan is older than Heracleon, older even than most written alphabets, dating back to nearly 5,000 years ago. Streets aligned with plazas, homes with multiple chambers, storage rooms hinting at trade and grain. A place not mythic but municipal. What happened? Rising seas combined with earthquakes from restless Mediterranean faults. What once was dry land drowned slowly, inch by inch, until the residents either fled or perished. The city was preserved by sand, leaving behind what feels like a blueprint for urban life. Walking along its streets with scuba gear, one sees how civilization has always been coastal, always fragile. Pavlo Petri whispers, "Our beginnings and our vulnerabilities are both tied to the shore." USS Cyclops, vanished with 309 souls, March 1918. World War I's Atlantic still ripe with U-boat hunts and fear. The USS Cyclops, a Navy colossus built to carry coal, slipped out of Barbados bound for Baltimore. She never made it. Over 300 men aboard, the largest loss of life in a non-combat U.S. Navy disaster. No SOS, no wreckage, no goodbye. Theories fill the vacuum. Structural failure from overloaded manganese ore, storms that battered her steel bones, sabotage by German agents, mutiny. The Bermuda Triangle mythology coiled itself around her absence, but historians find more mundane culprits: metal fatigue, bad luck, weather. Still, the ocean refuses confirmation. With no wreck ever located, Cyclops is as mythic as she is real. A ship that swallowed her own coordinates. The Waratah, Titanic of the South. Off South Africa in 1909, the passenger steamer Waratah left Durban with over 200 aboard. Sighted once by another vessel in high seas, she was never seen again. No wreckage, no lifeboats, only silence. Built tall, and perhaps too top-heavy, she carried whispers of instability from her first voyages. Some passengers disembarked at Durban, uneasy with her lurching roll. Others stayed, trusting steel and steam. That trust went unrewarded. Searches scoured the waters, but the Agulhas current is a conveyor of destruction, pulling wrecks far out and deep. Waratah became South Africa's Mary Celeste, less a shipwreck than a hole in the record. In her absence, myths swelled, phantom flames, curses, conspiracies. In truth, the sea off Durban is a graveyard, and she lies among the unmarked. Phantom submarines and silent steel moved to the Cold War, where paranoia filled oceans. Stories tell of submarines that stalked coastlines, tracked fleets, then vanished when confronted. Fishermen off Scandinavia reported periscopes cutting through swells, sonar traces of nothing that moved with intent, and metallic hulls glimpsed before slipping away. Was it Soviet espionage, NATO experiments, or a new class of submarine we still don't know? The sea leaves gaps wide enough for imagination. Modern sonar picks up anomalies at depth, shapes that don't stay still, echoes that dissolve before contact. In the Cold War's shadow, oceans themselves were theaters of silent pursuit. Some of those shadows still don't have names. The CAS-2, Australia's modern ghost ship, April 2007. Off the Great Barrier Reef, the catamaran CAS-2 was found drifting under full sail. Its engine humming, its GPS and laptop still on, but Derek, Peter, and James, the three friends aboard, were gone. Food sat uneaten. Life jackets hung untouched. A torn sail flapped. A fishing line trailed astern. The boat was seaworthy. The men had vanished. Investigators traced the vessel's erratic GPS path, circling, drifting. Theories piled. One man overboard during fishing, the others trying to save him, all three lost in a chain of panicked seconds. Or foul play, though no signs marked the cabin. The possibility of a rogue wave in calm seas felt thin. Like the Mary Celeste, CAS-2's greatest terror is its normalcy. A functional boat, absent humans, bobbing under an Australian sun. A reminder that disappearance can occur without warning, even now, with satellites and radios above. The Flor de la Mar, treasure that won't surface shift centuries back. To the Portuguese carrack, Flor de la Mar, bloated with loot from Malacca in 1511. Gold, jewels, artifacts from conquest, all meant for Lisbon and King Manuel. Instead, storms off Sumatra broke her apart. Albuquerque, the commander, escaped with a handful, but the treasure, perhaps the greatest ever assembled aboard a ship, sank. Treasure hunters still seek her grave, each expedition chasing a fortune large enough to rewrite fortunes anew. But currents, silt, reefs, and secrecy cloak the wreck. Some whisper the treasure was salvaged quietly, its riches long dispersed into royal vaults or black markets. Others insist it sleeps intact under shifting sands. Flor de la Mar endures as a paradox. We know where she sank, but not where she is. The Devil's Sea, Pacific twin of the Bermuda Triangle. Off Japan's southeastern coast lies a patch of ocean with too many names to ignore. Dragon's Triangle, Manaumi Devil's Sea. On maps, it looks ordinary. A busy shipping corridor bounded by Tokyo, Guam, and the Philippines. But folklore paints it darker. Ancient Japanese seafarers told of dragons rising from the waves, claws coiling around masts, ship swallowed whole. Fishermen whispered of lights gliding beneath their boats, of compasses whirling uselessly, of comrades who left at dawn and never returned. By the mid-20th century, the Devil's Sea had earned a reputation equal to the Bermuda Triangle. Between 1949 and 1953, 9 Japanese fishing boats disappeared there. No wreckage, no survivors. Alarm rose high enough that the government sent the research vessel Kiyomaru No. 5 into the danger zone. She carried scientists and sailors, equipment to measure magnetism, seafloor tremors, currents. She carried confidence, too, the belief that science could dissolve myth. She never came back. September 1952. Contact ceased, search parties fanned out, and only fragments of wreckage were found. No bodies, no clear cause. The government pulled back, declared the area hazardous, and the Dragon's Triangle's legend deepened. What makes this patch of water so deadly? Geology is one suspect. The Devil's Sea sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, with undersea volcanoes, earthquakes, and sudden gas eruptions. Rogue waves may rear out of nothing, crushing small boats. Magnetic anomalies scramble navigation. But the absence of survivors feeds wilder theories: UFOs, sea monsters, portals. Each new disaster, like the vanished Shinyomaru cargo ship or planes lost without a radio call, reinforces the dread. The Bermuda Triangle became the West's cautionary tale. The Devil's Sea is the East's. Both show how easily the ocean rewrites reason with silence. The Ningen. Pale giants of the Antarctic, some mysteries are not places but beings. In the early 2000s, whispers rose from Japanese research vessels patrolling Antarctic waters. Sailors reported seeing shapes beneath the ice, white, enormous, moving. At first they thought, iceberg. But the ice turned. It had limbs. Some swore they saw a face. The thing slipped back into the abyss. The name spread online. Ningen, Japanese for human. Descriptions varied but kept a theme. Pale skin, humanoid outline, 100 feet long, gliding silently just below the surface. Some drew it with arms, legs, even fingers. Others with a long tail, like a colossal manta ray. Always faceless, eyeless, ghost-like. Skeptics offer simpler culprits. Whales seen under strange light, giant rays, icebergs distorted by water refraction. Yet the persistence of reports keeps the legend alive. Some believe governments know more than they admit. That footage, even biological samples, have been classified. Why? Because the Ningen may not be just another species. Some link it to USOs, unidentified submerged objects, craft seen darting beneath waves at impossible speed. What unsettles most is the plausibility. The Southern Ocean is vast, hostile, and largely unobserved. We've mapped Mars in more detail than Antarctica's seabed. If a massive, slow, pale animal evolved to mimic ice and avoid humans, how could we prove otherwise? The Ningen is the kind of legend that grows in emptiness, where science hasn't yet drawn lines. Deep-sea gigantism, where creatures refuse limits. The deeper the ocean, the stranger the scale. Down in black water, where food is scarce and pressure unforgiving, you'd expect animals to be small, efficient, minimal. Instead, many are giants. The Japanese spider crab, legs spanning 12 feet. The colossal squid, larger than buses, with eyes the size of dinner plates. Isopods like pill bugs grown to 2 feet long. Scientists call it deep-sea gigantism, but the explanations compete. Cold slows metabolism, letting bodies grow steadily for decades. Larger sizes conserve energy better, a survival edge when meals are rare. Predators and prey evolve in escalation. Bigger jaws, bigger defenses, a slow arms race in the dark. And still, we stumble on species nobody imagined. In 2020, divers filmed a siphonophore, a colonial creature over 150 feet long, spiraling through deep Australian waters like a living galaxy. If that can exist unnoticed until now, what else waits? This is where the Ningen legend ties back. An Antarctic giant could be biology, not fantasy. And this is where older terrors resurface. The megalodon, an extinct shark said to reach 60 feet, ruled oceans millions of years ago. Officially gone for 3.6 million years. Unofficially, some wonder if the abyss has room for one survivor. Gigantism turns the ocean into theater. Each discovery, squid, siphonophore, crab, proves that the deep rewrites rules. If monsters still belong anywhere, they belong here. Closing descent from Yonaguni's sharp edges to Kaz the Two's empty deck, From the Flor de la Mar's buried gold to the Devil's Sea's vanished ships. The pattern holds, absence where presence should be. These aren't fairy tales. They are logged events, artifacts recovered, wrecks mapped, data recorded. And yet the narratives end mid-sentence. The ocean cuts the line. The suspense lies not in invention but in omission. No wreck found. No body recovered. No signal heard. Each silence becomes a chamber for fear, speculation, myth. The ocean doesn't answer. It absorbs. The deeper truth is simpler and colder. We still don't know our own planet. More than 80% of the seafloor remains unseen. For every wreck identified, 10 remain hidden. For every species catalogued, dozens lurk unnamed. In that gap, mystery breathes. So when we speak of ghost ships, dragon seas, pale giants, and colossal crabs, we are not only trading stories, we are acknowledging the frontier still below our feet. The ocean has given much, it has taken more, and in between, it leaves riddles. The ghost ship parallel, from Mary Celeste to Kaz. Every ocean mystery seems to echo another. The Kaz 2, found adrift on calm seas in 2007, pulled headlines precisely because it mirrored the 19th century ghost ship Mary Celeste. Two vessels separated by centuries, one a small Australian catamaran, the other a transatlantic brigantine, yet both discovered intact. Seaworthy with everything in place except the crew, Mary Celeste, sighted drifting near the Azores in 1872, had her cargo of alcohol untouched. Her sails partly set, her galley stocked. The lifeboat was gone. No blood, no battle, no sign of storm. Speculation ranged from mutiny to piracy to seaquakes to supernatural theft. None ever stuck. She drifted into maritime legend, a riddle in broad daylight. Kaz 2 repeated the form, but in an era of satellites, radios, GPS, helicopters. The sea still wrote the same script. Empty decks, engine running, half-finished meals, vanished crew. How can two ages separated by technology arrive at the same haunting? Because the ocean itself doesn't change. It remains a stage where even the best instruments fail when the moment comes. Ghost ships unsettle us not only for their mystery, but for their intimacy. They are not splintered wrecks swallowed whole. They are snapshots of life interrupted, cabins frozen mid-routine, as if the sea reached in and plucked out the human core, leaving the shell afloat. The suspense doesn't lie in what's found. It lies in what isn't. Treasure sunken, treasure hidden. The Flor de la Mar ghost ships embody human absence. Treasure ships embody human greed. The Flor de la Mar, Portugal's pride overloaded with the plunder of Malacca in 1511, set out with a cargo so vast it could have altered kingdoms. Gold, gems, artifacts, tribute, enough to gild an empire. She wrecked on the reefs of Sumatra, storm-driven, top-heavy, torn open. Survivors rowed ashore. The treasure did not. For 5 centuries, divers, adventurers, corporations have hunted her. None have claimed success. Why does the Flor de la Mar still matter? Because it is more than wealth, it is myth. Each failed expedition folds into the legend, feeding whispers of curses, of supernatural guardianship, of a ship destined never to be found. Each rumor strengthens the idea that some wrecks are not merely lost, but withheld, and here suspense deepens. What if the treasure was already taken? What if locals salvaged gold piece by piece centuries ago? What if rival empires secretly recovered cargo and erased the trail? That possibility adds not closure, but more mystery, because absence again becomes the only evidence. The Devil's Sea revisited, typhoons and kamikaze winds. The Dragon's Triangle isn't only a modern tale. In the 13th century, Kublai Khan launched his fleets, thousands of ships, tens of thousands of men, twice against Japan. Twice the fleets entered the same waters that centuries later would be branded Devil's Sea. Twice they were annihilated by sudden typhoons. The Japanese called the storms kamikaze, divine winds, sent by heaven itself. But was it only weather? The currents in that corridor are vicious, colliding streams from north and south, bending into whirlpools. Volcanic islands rise and collapse beneath the waves, altering the seabed without warning. Even today, sonar surveys show new undersea ridges where maps show none. If Khan's fleets broke apart on shifting ground, buried under centuries of silt, then the Dragon's Triangle has swallowed armies as easily as trawlers. A place that can erase thousands is no myth. It is geography sharpened to a knife's edge. Suspense lies in scale. When a fleet can vanish as easily as a single catamaran, it reminds us that size offers no protection. The ocean makes no distinction. The phantom submarines, shadows of war. The Second World War unleashed submarines across every theater, but amid the chaos came reports that defied inventory. Sailors recorded sonar contacts of vessels larger than U-boats, moving too fast, too agile. Depth charges exploded without effect. Shadows appeared, then vanished. Crews spoke of being stalked by machines that logic said could not exist. Were these experimental designs, Type 21 electric boats, Japanese I-class giants, Swedish prototypes? Or were they illusions, whales, rocks, echoes? The tension remains because the reports came from trained men, disciplined observers, who knew the difference between whale song and a steel hull. Some whispers pushed further, that these weren't human craft at all, but unidentified submerged objects, USOs, glimpses of technology beyond the age. Metallic whispers on hydrophones, glowing shapes beneath waves, radar tracks that slipped away. Suspense thrives here not because we lack theories, but because each theory is worse than the last. If they were enemy weapons, then history hid technologies lost to records. If they were misreadings, then our instruments are fallible in ways still unacknowledged. If they were something else entirely, then the war's oceans hosted an intruder we still cannot name. Deep-sea gigantism as proof of unknown science tries to cut through myth. It names gigantism, catalogs squids, measures crabs. Yet each explanation circles back to the same admission. We know almost nothing. The ocean floor remains more mysterious than Mars. Creatures appear on cameras that we never imagined. Glowing, translucent, monstrous. Suspense here is not built from ghosts or curses, but from inevitability. If the ocean hides 80% of its truth, then discoveries of giants, monsters, anomalies are not rare. They are overdue. Transition toward the abyss. Put these mysteries together. Ghost ships, treasure fleets, dragon seas, phantom submarines, pale giants, and the narrative merges. The theme isn't disappearance. The theme is incompleteness. Every story is a half sentence. A ship leaves, it does not arrive. A fleet sails, it is gone. A giant surfaces, then melts back into ice. A sonar screen pings, then clears. The suspense remains because the stories refuse closure. The ocean does not grant endings. It grants only openings. Some mysteries survive because they are ancient. The Ningen survives because it is new. First whispered in the 2000s on Japanese forums, the tale is not built on sailors' folklore or centuries of myth. It is a story of scientists, crew aboard government research vessels, men trained to measure, not to fantasize. They reported something white, massive, human-shaped, moving in Antarctic waters. Not a whale, not a berg, something else. Descriptions overlap. Pale skin, featureless face, limbs stretching into fins, length rivaling whales, silence like ice itself. And then the vanishing, sliding beneath black water, erasing evidence with the ease of a shadow. Here suspense multiplies not through imagination, but through secrecy. The Japanese government has never confirmed, never denied. Posts discussing the Ningen vanish from forums. Alleged photos circulate, blurry, ambiguous, too uncertain to confirm, too striking to dismiss. The mystery is preserved not by belief, but by silence. Scientists suggest mistaken identity. Belugas, manta rays, giant squid. The rationalist explanation insists the ocean plays tricks. Ice refracts, water warps, scale deceives. Yet rationalism admits a deeper truth. The Southern Ocean is almost unstudied. If a 100-foot cryptid existed anywhere, it would exist there. The suspense lives in that gap. Misidentification explains, but does not satisfy. Because to those who have glimpsed a Ningen, what they saw was not a ray, not a whale, not a squid. What they saw was impossible, and yet they swear it was real. Deep-sea gigantism, monsters by law, not exception. Gigantism is no legend. It is law. In the abyss, crabs grow to the span of doors, squids longer than buses, siphonophores stretching 150 feet, living ropes glowing in black water. Creatures thrive not by shrinking to survive, but by enlarging beyond comprehension. Why? Scientists wrestle with the logic. Cold slows metabolism, granting centuries for growth. Scarcity favors bulk, a body that conserves, endures, stores. Predators and prey escalate, an arms race fought in darkness. The abyss imposes rules unknown to land. Suspense emerges not from possibility, but inevitability. If gigantism is real law, then unknown monsters are not optional. They are required. The ningen, if it exists, may simply be proof of principle. Gigantism pushed into form uncanny to us. Human-like, not because it mimics us, but because we project ourselves onto what we cannot categorize. The abyss insists. The stranger, the conditions, the stranger the outcomes. We should not be shocked by monsters. We should expect them. The ocean's pattern, repetition. Without resolution, ghost ships adrift. Fleets erased. Treasure unrecovered. Phantoms tracked, not caught. Giants glimpsed, not proven. What links them all is not their difference, but their sameness. The sea repeats one move across centuries. Appear, then remove. Present evidence enough to tantalize. Deny evidence enough to conclude. Leave the pattern hanging. Caz 2 echoes Mary Celeste. Flor de la Mar echoes Titanic. Devil's Sea mirrors Bermuda Triangle. Ningen mirrors Kraken. This is why the suspense endures. The pattern is recursive. Each new event feels familiar, yet unsolved. It deepens the archive without ever closing it. Cultural echo. Why we cannot look away. Why do these tales grip us across centuries? Because they mirror what we fear most. Absence. A missing crew, a missing ship, a missing body, a missing truth. To lose something is human. To lose it utterly, without trace, is inhuman. Each mystery reminds us that our maps are illusions. Our technology is not mastery but veneer. Beneath the surface lies an older rule. Water keeps what it takes. That rule builds suspense by inversion. We enter the ocean expecting vastness. We leave unsettled not by what it reveals, but by what it withholds. Transition toward the final descent, and so the narrative turns. From singular tales to collective realization, the ocean is not a stage for stories. The ocean is the story. It writes in vanishings, in absences, in glimpses, in what it denies. The suspense does not fade as we collect more mysteries. It accumulates. Each ghost ship is another stanza, each cryptid, another refrain, each treasure lost, another silence. And as long as the ocean persists, the chorus will grow. The ocean as a thief of time. The sea does not simply drown ships. It erases time. Pavlopetri thrived as a Bronze Age port. Streets, homes, workshops, all swallowed by rising water and trembling earth. Yet when rediscovered, it was not rubble. It was a frozen instant, a time capsule preserved under sand. The Cyclops, by contrast, left nothing. No wreck, no lifeboats, no oil slick. One ship remembered because it remained, the other remembered because it did not. That is the dual suspense of the ocean. Sometimes it preserves too much, showing us what should have been lost. Other times it preserves nothing, leaving only silence where there should be wreckage. We cannot predict which fate the sea will choose. We can only stare into its contradictions. The psychology of disappearance. Every story of vanishing bends the same way. Men leave home, they never arrive. For families, absence becomes the only inheritance. For historians, each absence becomes a puzzle. For us, it becomes fascination. Suspense is strongest where certainty is weakest. When debris floats, we build explanations. When nothing floats, we build legends. The Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea, the Phantom submarines, each emerged not from wreckage, but from lack of wreckage. The sea hides not just bodies and ships, but certainty itself. And the less we know, the more we imagine. The unknown is not empty. It is crowded, patterns of the abyss suddenness. The Cyclops vanishes without a signal. The Waratah disappears between two ports. The Caz 2 crew leaves without struggle. These are not slow deaths. They are instant absences. Silence. Radios fail. Logs stop. Weather reports show nothing unusual. The silence is always too clean. Scale. Tiny boats vanish. So do massive liners. So do fleets. The sea is not selective. Repetition. Mysteries echo across eras. The form remains constant. Only the names change. These 4 rules are the grammar of suspense at sea. Each new case is another sentence in the same language. The suspense of sightings' disappearance unsettles, but sightings disturb differently. A ghost ship adrift. A pale figure surfacing. A sonar ping that should not exist. These are not total absences, but fleeting presences. They grant too much, then snatch it away. The ningen surfaces once, never again. A phantom submarine darts, then vanishes. Fishermen glimpse lights in the Devil's Sea only for them to fade. Suspense here is sharper because it teases us with proof, then denies it. The sea whispers, then swallows its own words. Toward a cinematic conclusion, put it together. Pavlo Petri's Frozen Ruins. Cyclops' empty trail, Kaz 2's untouched deck. Fleur de la Mar's treasure buried in currents. Devil's sea storms, phantom submarines, Ningen's pale silhouette, giants crawling in blackness. Each story different, but each with the same weight. The ocean is never neutral. It is not merely backdrop. It is active, deliberate, almost narrative. It shapes suspense not by what it reveals, but by how it controls the ratio of presence to absence, trace to void, whisper to silence. The final suspense is this. The sea has not finished. Ships still cross, storms still rise, trenches still gape. The pattern will repeat. Another vessel will vanish. Another shape will surface. Another mystery will be added to the archive. And when it happens, we will tell the story again. We will draw parallels, build theories, whisper legends. The suspense will deepen, because each new mystery does not replace the old. It joins them. The ocean's story is not resolution. The ocean's story is accumulation, a crescendo without end.